This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
You are what you watch.
Welcome to Politics Today. I'm the guest host, Rommel Sangalang. Harry Tambuatko will be back next week. Today we have a very special show called Investors Talk. Given the current crisis in China and ASEAN, as well as what's going on in the Americas, what can you do on a personal level to protect your wealth? And that's what we're going to discuss today. I have a very good guest, JAVELLANA, who has great ideas for the individuals here in the Philippines and what they should look forward to. He's the branch head and senior financial advisor for Manulife. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you, Rommel. Great pleasure being here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a bit of what Filipinos should know to secure their future. Is this something that you would like to show them?
Actually, in today's internet age, where the internet really has a lot of the world covered as far as information, the Philippines does not have that kind of exposure. One of the things I'd like to do on this show is to give an educational perspective so they can make their own decision, but they should also understand where they're going to make that decision. Maybe it's Manulife, maybe it's someone else, maybe it's you, but let's have an education for the audience so that they can understand exactly what they can do for their own personal protection.
Right. So let's do this. I have prepared a little presentation for people who probably will be seeing this for the first time, seeing the ideas for the first time, and will probably benefit a lot from just the ideas. However, let me warn people listening now that these are just the beginnings. What they should do is, after seeing these things, is they should explore further. They should ask a lot more questions. They should read up more, maybe talk to people who know more so that they can get a better idea before they make any action.
I wholly agree. Thank you very much, Ray.
Okay, so let's talk about investing today. I'd like to proceed by first asking the question, why should anyone ever consider investing? Why should anyone ever discuss investments? Well, probably the best argument for that is that when people prepare for life, they actually don't see the actual two possible life scenarios that could happen. The first is people actually can live too short. Let me clarify that. Short is when you don't want to go yet, but you're already being taken. Okay? That's too short. Okay? And so when people live too short, they normally are not prepared to go. And the first thing that could be a concern to them is actually their children may not be ready to fare for themselves.
That is true.
That's the most critical, I think. I mean, the whole essence of our life is that we have children. We prepare for them. And then suddenly, you're out of the picture. You haven't answered the question of how to take care of the kids when you're no longer around. So the very first concern there of living too short is your children are still too young. Second is there's always that question of we don't normally go just quietly and with no cost involved. The hospital normally enters the picture. So we do have to prepare for that. The question there is, who's going to pay the bills? You or the people you leave behind. The people you leave behind are already distraught as they are, and then you're going to add more problems to them by making them take care of your bills. So that's something that you should really take care of yourself if you can. Third, well, in Metro Manila, the costs are really rising. I mean, the cost for interment and dying can be from a very low price, just very basic, just to get you disposed of, or it can be something that the families will remember. Your friends and your families will remember. That's the one that costs money. When you have to bring in friends, you have to bring in family, and you have to make sure that each one of them tries to recall the good days where they had with you. And that's a good time for families to bond. But that can be very expensive. Fourth is, usually, we leave things behind that we need to settle, but we haven't settled. It was on our plan to settle, but didn't actually get to do it. So who's going to do that? The family will have to take care of that. And again, it's unfair for them to take care of that when you could have taken care of that yourself. The fifth concern there is, well, many people think that they have prepared for their families, they have a home, they have a nice car, they have possessions, they could probably take care of the family. But the fact is, there are some things that they need to be settled first to ensure that all of these possessions, all of these things can be properly transferred to the members of the family so that they could enjoy them. If there's no provision, then the whole thing that you provided for them would actually be lost. And then we have, I think this one is something that really bothers people, my clients who are close to already leaving this world. The thought that, well, they have amassed a lot of properties, a lot of things they thought they would be leaving behind their family, only to find out that these things could be a source of discord among the members. They could quarrel over these things when they die. Maybe the children may not because they love each other, but you move to the next generation, they don't know each other that well, they have no essence of the same relationship that they had before, and the properties become a source of family strife, fighting for the properties. And I don't know if anybody wants to die living the thought that the family could be fighting over these things. And we have, of course, corresponding to those problems, you'd need to probably go to court, settle things, you know. So the lawyers have to come in. There's a lot of costs that are involved there that maybe the family is not prepared to take care of. And last but not the least, the people you leave behind, they still have to continue living. And they still have to spend. So who's going to take care of this? And that's the issue of somebody who is used to taking care of the family and now is faced with the question of what if tonight you were no longer around to take care of that. The second issue is, of course, if there's such thing as living too short, there's the other side, living too long. And more that becomes a possibility because of the advance of medical science. We have a lot of things that to take care of us, but living too long means you probably will not have enough money to take care of yourself. It can be very expensive considering that prices continue to rise every year. Then, of course, you cannot anymore work no matter how much you want to. And many people find that when they retire, they find that the retirement money that they got is actually not enough to support them into when they age 80s and beyond. And at that age, how do you expect to continue to work to support yourself? So you do need to consider how much you're going to be preparing for if you live too long. And there's, of course, the question of you may be living too long, but you need a lot of money to continue living that long. And many of the friends I know, many of the pensioners I know, sometimes just spend their entire pension from the SSS just to buy medicine. I've encountered friends who we were the same counter at the pharmacy, and they were ordering in the vicinity of 10,000, 15,000 a month in
Medication.
Yeah, medication.
Wow.
And that's the entire pension for them.
Yeah.
So they have to depend on children abroad. The children have to work for them to continue providing for them. And then there's, of course, you need help to actually do physical activity. That's what the picture actually shows. So you cannot say, I can support myself when I grow old. You'll have to probably depend on children to take care of you. But if the children are too busy with their own lives, they have their own problems to meet, who's really going to take care of you?
This is a modern world. You're not assured that your children's going to love
Exactly.
you as much as you loved your own parents.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And yet, despite that fact, we haven't really come to terms with the possibility that that is the life our children will have now. In fact, many parents find their children going abroad, and they just send money back to take care of the parents. So it's really tough living on your own. Next, we have the idea that, when it comes to your own personal needs, it's what you call nakakahiya to depend on others to support your needs. But that sometimes is necessary. And I don't know if you want to live a life where you have to be continually at the mercy of others' generosity to you. You probably don't want to be that in that side, because when your grandchildren do come to visit you, they might not want to visit you because they say, ayaw ko kay lolo kasi si lolo hinihingan ako ng pera. So the grandchildren don't want to visit you because of that. Okay? And what else do we have? There's the fact that when your time's gone and your friends suddenly go ahead of you one by one, there's no one to talk to. There's no barkada. Life just becomes colorless, meaningless, unless you can find something new to do. And that normally requires a little bit more money than what you're prepared for. Now, just to give an idea about what I'm talking about, I prepared this table that shows if you were living a certain standard at this time, and let's assume that inflation in the Philippines continues to be about 3% per annum. Right now, we're less than 1%, but the target of the government is between 2 to 4% inflation per annum. So let's assume that on the average, we're able to maintain it at 3%. If you were living today on just 10,000 a month, if you continued to live another 30 years, you'd be spending another 5.7 million. So if you're retiring with less than that, isn't that thought scary? 10,000 a month gives you 5.7 million that you will need over the next 30 years. In the provinces, that might be okay. Metro Manila, I doubt it. Metro Manila, probably you'd be comfortable with at least about 50,000. And you're talking here, you're talking about 28 million over there.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here specifically is I've already retired, and I have a very set way of life, whether it's what I eat in the morning, where I go out at night, my parkadas, right?
Right.
And so this you're talking about 50,000 in Metro Manila is for me to enjoy going out, seeing a movie. Maybe if I live in Makati, see that for free, but then
Yeah.
I'll eat popcorn,
Yeah.
right? So the chances of us being prepared when we retire, what have you seen in your clientele that they're prepared to have that kind of cash already in hand when they say, I'm not going to work anymore, and this is the only income I'm going to be receiving every month?
Well, they're shocked, no? They're essentially shocked when we sit down and do some computations about what they would need. And they're shocked and they say, what can I do? Well, that's actually what we have to do as financial advisors. We have to be able to find a means. And even if that would involve talking with the children, we would often tell them, let's gather the children, let's talk about this, let's do something today. But many of them may actually have owned investments that don't make any money for them. And we turn to these assets that they have so that they could convert them into something that will provide for their old age. It depends. It absolutely depends on the condition of the client, the situation of the client. But sad to say, pension alone from the pension system will definitely not be enough. So what is really enough money? I'll provide a possible scenario for that, how it's going to be done. What we would normally ideally do is we want to make sure that while we are earning, we're able to build up our assets, our estate. And this estate, it should be large enough so that when we retire or we are no longer able to work, or when we take the option no longer to work, that estate would take care of us until the end of our days. I would say normally the age there would be about 85, thereabouts. But I say that I found a lot of people, and I think statistics have proven this, the research has proven this, that when you have more money, you tend to live longer.
I'm doomed. That particular case.
I imagine that, you know, when you have no more money, you wake up one day and say, what will I do now? I have no more money. What can I do? What can I spend? I'm still living. You probably wish to, you know, Lord, kunin mo na ako. That's what happens. And so you probably have to think about this stage at this early, when you can still do something about it. I like to show what happens when you set aside even just a little sum every day. I'm using this example, 55 pesos a day. 55 pesos a day multiplied by 365 pesos, 365 days a year, actually rounds up nicely to about 20,000 a year. So it's no laughing matter just to set aside 55 pesos a day. But the fact is, people nowadays, they don't even bother thinking about where my 55 pesos is going.
So I'm gonna say something. This was an interesting commentary on Starbucks about 7 years ago. Now, it actually doesn't work anymore. But they were saying that the young professionals, the Y2Ks, were spending on an average $4 a day in coffee. Right?
Yeah.
But they weren't putting anything in the retirement, what we call the 403B or 401K investment in the United States. So, but now that amount of money is totally useless. I mean, the day has gone where they should have been doing that, you know, 7, 10 years ago. But now, to save that kind of money now, and they're already in their 35s, 40s.
That would have been a lot of money.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of money, but now it's too late. You're going to have to double that or triple that in the United States.
That's
or
right.
first world. But here in the Philippines, that's still possible. So
very
if they
possible.
could just like let go of one Coke Light a
Right.
day, and they're 20-something in the BPO world, they would be financially okay when they get older.
Imagine one less cup of coffee every day.
Yeah.
One less cup. And this will show it. I mean, take a look. That's 20,000 if you were saving 18 years. Well, if you ask me why 18 years, because that's all that will fit into my graph. Okay. And you were to put it in a savings account where it earns 2%, you'd actually have almost, 106,000 in interest income from that over 18 years. You say it's pretty good. Well, if you subtract actually the effect of inflation there, you actually would have lost money. Now, on the other hand, you could place that money in, let's say, securities like bonds and earn 6% from that. You actually would have almost doubled your money in 18 years. On the other hand, corporate bonds, some of them give a higher rate of return, so that's even better. But look, if you find an investment where it earns you 10% per annum, you actually end up a millionaire after 18 years on 55 pesos a day. And how many people actually think of that? Well, this chart normally is something that wakes up a lot of people to the realization suddenly that if I had saved way back then, I'd probably be a millionaire now. Well, it can still be done, but you probably need to save a little bit more every time. Let's assume now that we are able to get an investment where you have 12% return per annum. That's still possible these days. And if you have 12% return per annum, saving 1,500 a month, that's less than the 55 pesos a day, would actually bring you 1.4 million in 20 years. 3,000 a day, 3,000 a month would give you more than double, 2.8, 2.9. And many people can actually, who are right now single, as in they still live with their parents, they don't have a family to take care of, they're used to spending very little when they were college students. Actually, many of them can save anywhere from 4,000 to maybe 10,000 a month. If you were a seafarer, 10,000 would be easy to do. And if you stayed as a seafarer for 10 years, you'd have 2.2 million. Staying there longer, much more. And in 10 years, 20 years' time, you'd be ready to retire comfortably and just living off the interest of your investment. You could wait many years to double your money if you didn't invest it, But leaving it in investment can actually double your money very fast. You just use the rule of 72. You divide it by the rate of interest you get every year, and the resulting number will be the number of years it will take to double your money. What we're seeing here is that if you're actually putting your money in the bank and you get 2% return for it, you can actually double your money in 36 years, but good luck if you're still alive, you know. But if you're able to get something like 10, 12% in 6 years, you'd actually double your money. And the thing is, if you can continue to find an investment, excuse me, in that range of return, you'd be pretty comfortable many years from now when your money keeps doubling back every 6 years or so. And imagine if you are able to get 18% return. That's 4 years that your money will double. So you do have an opportunity to grow your money if you did something about it. And then when you reach the desired target, then you can already start to think about measuring how you will spend it and how long it will last. I put here a table. If you have $1 million today, if you just take out $14,347 a month starting today, and you get a 12% return on that 1 million, it will last you 10 years. If you modify your spending a bit to just 10,000 a month, it can last for 25 years. How much more if you have 5, 8, 10, maybe 20 million? It's a lot of money. So people can actually start to project what kind of life they're going to have by starting something today and working with time to put together for them the kind of money they need in the future. Now, I've summarized some basic investment options that people can have. You'd have to choose which one works for you. But essentially, I find that there's, for example, going to your own business. Unfortunately, not easy. Because if you've been used to being an employee all your life, getting a salary, and then you retire and go into business, it will be your first time you're likely to lose everything. I wouldn't advise that. You can think of going into someone else's business. Sanay tayo yung Pinoy, we say, sosyo. Ikikisosyo ako sa'yo. But you know, if your choices are limited, it can be very difficult. And you could lose the same thing and not only lose the money, you could actually lose a friend. If you put your money together with a family member, I tell my clients, you have to choose whether you lose the money or you lose the family friend. You can't have both. Because when the business turns sour, you'd have to make a choice. Okay? So from the very beginning, it must be very clear to you what you want more. You could also have real estate. That's the rates nowadays. But you know, not all real estate gives the same. You'd have to be very careful about picking your piece of property that you're going to invest in. I have many clients who were OFWs and seafarers who initially invested in real estate, but the investment was in farms. Now, think about it. All their lives, they've been seafarers, and they invest in farms, hoping to be farmers when they retire. It's a dream, but it doesn't happen. So what happens is they put their money in farms, and the farms produce nothing for them except for maybe growing value. And if they pick the wrong location, they probably would have lost all their investment, and at the point when they should be retiring, they're forced to sell it, and they wasted a lot of time to build on their retirement. We have government securities. Government securities. They're the safest investments around. The principle is no government will not pay a debt. Corporate securities, you'd have to choose the corporations you invest in. The newest thing, investment funds. Investment funds, you rely on investment experts to handle your investment. You pay them a little, but because they're common, their services are common to many people, you can definitely afford these people. Life insurance, probably the investment people can have.
Okay. Thank you so much for all that information. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and discuss everything you basically put on topic. And hopefully even our personal experiences can come to play and show the people exactly what they can and what they shouldn't do in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin.